It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and we are preparing to go salmon fishing. We are staying at the Homes 2 Suites Hotel in Oswego, New York. Zoe has been asking me to take her salmon fishing for a couple of years now, and we are about to do it. We are meeting our fishing guide, Michael Healy, at the Pine Grove boat launch just outside of Pulaski, New York at 5 a.m. We will be fishing on the Salmon River, which feeds into Lake Ontario. The boat was a little smaller than I expected. It was a drift boat, which is basically a rowboat. It did not have an engine. We put into the water around 5:30ish, and Michael rowed us to our fishing spot. We got to the fishing spot around 6 a.m., but could not start fishing until 6:15 a.m. by state law. We had not been fishing long before we got our first hit. The way we operated was that Zoe held the rod and did the reeling. I helped her hold the rod, with her holding the lower end of the rod and me holding the rod above the reel. Michael stood by with the net. Our first hit was a success, and Zoe caught her first ever salmon. It turns out that this salmon weighed in at just over 20 pounds. The line we used was 20-pound test line. We could not just pull the salmon in or the line would have broken. We had to let him fight against the line while Zoe reeled in when she could and let the line go out when the fish pulled against it. It took her a good 10 minutes to land the first salmon. While we were waiting for our second salmon hit, Zoe was starting to get a little bored. So Michael rigged up a line for her to fish for some yellow perch that were hanging around our boat. Michael tossed some fish roe, which was what we used for bait, into the water near the boat, and Zoe fished for yellow perch. Altogether, she caught 8 yellow perch. She released each of them as soon as she had caught them.
Reel.
Is that him way out there jumping?
No, he's right up over here by the dock.
Oh, I see.
Here, that he reeled this.
Yeah. After a while, we got our second salmon hit, and we all jumped to our battle stations. Zoe held the rod and did the reeling. I supported the rod again by holding it above the reel, and Michael manned the net and gave us directions as to how to land the fish. The fish took almost 20 minutes to land. He was a real fighter. At one point, Michael pulled up our anchors and the fish was pulling us downstream. Eventually, Zoe landed the fish. The fish weighed in at 14.5 pounds. It is worth noting that both fish had suction marks on their sides from lamprey eels that had attached to their sides. After catching the second salmon, Zoe turned to me and said, "Look at my hands, Grandpop." The redness in her hands is from the effort that it took to reel in the second salmon. After 20 minutes of fighting, her hands were red and sore. She didn't complain, however, but showed off her hands as a badge of courage. After catching her second salmon, we did the obligatory picture of her holding the salmon. Then Zoe went back to fishing for yellow perch. It had been threatening to rain all day, and the rain by this point had finally started to come down pretty hard. We had been on the river for about 5 hours. I asked Zoe how much longer she wanted to stay and fish, and she said she wanted to fish for another 6 hours. Eventually, I convinced her that we had enough salmon to fill her freezer and that we should head in because of the rain. She reluctantly agreed, and we started to trek back to our launch point. After we got back to shore and Michael had loaded his boat back on the trailer, he led us to one of the many cleaning stations along the Salmon River. Here we weighed the fish and hung them up to get some pictures prior to having them cleaned. The people at the cleaning station charged us $3 per fish to fillet the fish. This was money well spent. They filleted the fish, clean the steaks, and bag them for us. They also sell ice there, which we use to ice down the fish as we put them into our cooler.
If you don't mind, I'm going so many fish on there, you're like, oh no, is the table gonna break?
I checked last night, so we didn't stay with that weather.
They tried it yesterday. There was 18 of them up there.
Yeah, I was here for that. Those were part of my fish.
It started raining, I said, all right.
No, what? Were you part of the group that had 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just kept throwing them up there. Yeah, we tested the table out a lot. There's no doubt about that.
Well, put it to the test. Now you look at the bright side of the lack of fish, your little 18-inch cooler will work for it.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and look at that.
Why? Because I was cleaning fish after midnight last night. I wanted to go home. I didn't start till Monday.
Oh man.
He was not clear fish after. We're getting them. It was like 12:02.
Yeah. Like I got that fish done quick. It was out of there.
Austin, how many fish you put? 20?
That's it?
No, I thought there's been more than one.
He come in here and help too, but I don't know what he does in the morning with Jeremy.
I am curious how you keep your sweatshirt so clean.
You don't.
Oh no, it looks pretty clean to me.
For
Compared to
now.
like mine. Like,
That's because we just
I'm
get
going
mad.
to do a dance.
like
Yeah,
I
know,
mean,
it's
like
all my
not
movies are
even
usually
reading fish, just
choreographed.
handling like 3 to 6 fish in a trip. My sweatshirt's covered in slime or blood. What?
18 fish when it came in, I cleaned them and bagged them.
One of them got the bigger ones.
I'm going to cut that lantern mark right out.
Alright, guys, you clean that shit.
There we go.
Alright, now boil it in.
How many fish you died yesterday? Where?
You look a new bag.
Because if I wasn't bagging this, they Paul took my
What
job.
time did you get here?
Tell me here, you're going to take news.
Alright, so I finished fucking 3 hours before you got here. So something, man, in contact.